Welcome back, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce is back at it again for another Bleav in Hawks episode. Been a bit of a break for the pod after the season ended for the Atlanta Hawks and everything. Resetted some stuff. Obviously, I also do Falcons content on my YouTube channel, so I was doing stuff with that. But I feel like it's time to get back into the basketball. Can't leave you guys without the podcast for the summer. So I just want to let you guys know what I got planned coming up here. So today's episode is going to primarily just be my thoughts on the playoffs so far, series, especially Lakers and Suns series, since they're both over, and also those two teams. Well, Lakers are going to be connected to the Hawks, but Suns, some people have already tried to bring some stuff up about that. So I'll talk about that in the series, and then predicting, obviously Denver, Minnesota coming up, and obviously tonight you got a couple of big games with the Knicks and trying to close out the Sixers tonight, and then Mavs and Clippers. So we're going to talk about all that tonight on the pod. For moving forward, hoping to get someone from the Lakers on the pod, hopefully the next day or two, to talk about the Trae Young rumors. So you definitely want to tune in for that, and just more about the Lakers. Obviously, with the season being over until the Hawks are in some big stuff, a lot more of my podcasts are going to be more general pods of just basketball talk, and then just tie-ins potentially to the Hawks, depending on what's going on. So we got that going for you. I'm going to start something maybe next week with the pods where I will start breaking down one player from the team, or two, depending on the episode. Just a year in review for that player, just looking at what they did well, what they didn't do well, what they can improve, what their future with the team is, et cetera, et cetera. So just something to obviously help us get through this time period. Obviously, next big thing the Hawks will be involved in will be the draft lottery, since they have a lottery pick this year. They have a 3-4% chance, I think, of getting a top 4 pick. So obviously, if that happened, that would be big for the team. It could change things for them this offseason, especially when it comes to the draft, because I know everybody's going to be talking about that after, or obviously when the playoffs are over. We'll have the draft coming up. So, we'll get into that. And yeah, like I said, I'll try to have more collabs throughout the summer as well, just to have some good, solid basketball talk. So like I said, guys, appreciate you guys tuning into this, man. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget everything, whatever platform you're listening to me on. Just appreciate you guys let me be a part of your day. So let's go ahead and get into it. Like I said, we're going to get into the NBA playoffs. It's been crazy. We're going to start with the latest crazy series that just ended. Denver and LA, the Lakers. Lakers were eliminated last night after a Jamal Murray game winner hitting 2 in the series against the Lakers, sending them home in 5 games. And that game 5 was probably one of, if not the best playoff game we have seen so far in the postseason. There's been a couple of great ones in this first round already. Last night was definitely up there with them. You had everything. LeBron going crazy, Jamal Murray playing on the injured calf, going crazy. Joker doing his thing. Anthony Davis was dominant in that first half, injured his shoulder. That obviously changed the trajectory for his rest of the game, but stayed out there, played through it, and just wanted to be out there for his team. And, obviously the Lakers have a lot of big questions coming up, which obviously ties into the Hawks, which I'll get into here in a minute. But for the most part with the series, with Denver winning the series, it was one of those situations where Denver just showed you why they're defending champs from the series. I think one thing about Denver that is extremely impressive about their team is that they're very consistent. Like, one thing about the Denver Nuggets is they're an extremely consistent team. I don't have the numbers, but I think Reggie Miller talked about it on the broadcast. He talked about, if you look at quarter by quarter, Denver plays the same pretty much for the most part. They don't, in the NBA, I feel like there's a lot of teams that play up and down. Certain quarters are better for others. You can tell, like, the team can be kind of like, fluid in that regard. Denver is a team that is so consistent that they just pretty much are the same. So even if you're beating them, they may not even be playing bad, so to say. They just, they're just playing at a level. And then when you come down, they could come up, and now they're leading, because their great is really great, And the thing is that I think the Lakers experienced that. The Lakers led the series more than 50% of the time in this series against the Nuggets and still lost in 5 games. So that tells you what kind of series this was. Denver played their best basketball in the most clutch moments in the second half. I Bleav LA has led in every halftime game. And at halftime of every game in the series, and they lost in 5. That tells you just the type of team Denver is. I've always said Denver is the epitome of what you want your team to look like. They are extremely balanced. They got guys who can play all over the place. They can switch. They're versatile. Everybody can shoot, defend. Obviously, it helps that your best player is a center because you can dominate the game from the paint, from the block, like Joker can. It gives him like an unfair advantage over guys. He can kill you with his passing. He can score the ball. Obviously, he can kind of do everything. And then you got Jamal Murray, who they call the big game merchant, always steps up in big games. And, he becomes such a high level player. People were talking about on social media yesterday. He's never been an all-star. He's never been an all-NBA player. But yet, at the same time, the things he's done, it's almost like he's one of the most elite point guards in the game. Like, without the accolades, from what you've seen in the postseason, which we've made such a big deal of, it doesn't mean anything in the regular season. It means everything in the postseason. Jamal Murray has done it on multiple occasions in multiple series. He's done it on the biggest stage. So why isn't Jamal Murray considered one of the top in the game? Are we going to start nailing him because he doesn't have the All-Stars or the All-NBAs? All I'm seeing him doing is hitting game-winning shots and being one of the most clutch players in the postseason where it matters most. And the Lakers had to deal with that. Because the thing about the Lakers in this series is that the Lakers, this series before last night's game could have easily been 2-2. They had that lead, and I Bleav it was in game 2. They had that lead. They could have made it 2-2. And then this would have been 3-2. They're going back to LA, got one more game to try to, get back to game 7. The Lakers in this series, outside of game 1, pretty much has been in every game from start to finish. Game 1, they led, and then Denver just blew them off the court in the second half. But outside of that, games 2 through 5, the Lakers have been in every single game. And, you have AD. You know what he could do. Denver doesn't have an answer for AD. And AD has had a really good season. A guy who's been just, punished by the media for his health, punished by fans for his health. We know he was talented. Some people say he's not consistent. And obviously, you see this in today's game with him being a big man. A lot of that is dictated on you getting the ball. And there's times where you've seen fans talk about, well, AD didn't get the ball late. That's why they struggle offensively down the stretch, right? So, which is true, and because at the end of the day, they have to feed him the ball. If they don't give him the ball, AD can't operate. AD can't show us why he's looked at as a generational guy, as a top level big man in this league, guy who could score from all 3 levels. But it's really difficult to stop. And he had a really good series. He everything like that. Like I said, he got hurt in the second half of game 5, but outside of that, he's pretty much been excellent this series for the most part. But yet, even with them having that and LeBron, LeBron was locked in. He's had big games this series, trying to get will this team to a victory. And still not being able to get over Denver just kind of shows you. And we can look at the supporting cast. D'Angelo Russell, pretty much for the most part, people would say had one really, really good game, which was the game 2 game. He's had some decent games, and he's had some bad games in this series. He's kind of been all over the place. That's what you get when you have D'Angelo Russell on your team, on your roster. He's been all over the place, but he did what he had to do out there today. I mean, not out today, but like yesterday, where he didn't have the greatest performance, but made a couple of shots. But again, if you're a Lakers fan, I understand. You feel like you need more from that position. You need that third guy reliably. And Austin Reeves was also inconsistent in this series as well. So and they got Rory to show up yesterday, but it was just too late for him because they needed him to show up early in the series as well. So really, this entire series for Denver and the Lakers has pretty much just been a matter of Denver's just more physically tough, mentally tough, and they just make the plays when they need to make them. Because the Lakers, this is a series that you could say this is like a super tough 5-game series for Denver, but at the end of the day, you beat them in 5. And so that meant that when they get to the moments of the game that can dictate wins and loss, Denver always was able to win in those moments. So, I mean, big for them to go on to the next round. They have a big matchup coming up against Minnesota, which now I'll get into their series against the Suns because that's the second big series there. Minnesota sweeping the Suns. I mean, first time I think they said they've advanced in the playoffs since 2004 when Kevin Garnett was in Minnesota. Ant continuing to show that he is a superstar. I've seen some people still reluctant to tell people say that he is. I think it's very clear that Ant is the former Atlanta product. Obviously, I know a lot of Hawks fans talk about he should have been a Hawk. Should have been a Hawk. But Adam Silver didn't want it to happen. But, he's been great. Jaden McDaniels, he stepped up. He's been big for them. I mean, Rudy Gobert, we know what he is. I mean, Rudy Gobert can provide value to a team. He's not a game changer, but he's a valuable player. And you need those guys on your team. Not everybody has to be able to change the game, but can they be valuable for you when you need them? And that's what Rudy has been. And Cat getting back from his injury, obviously kind of see where he was. He's had some good games in the series, and that's helped him out. Obviously, Ant needing that support, needing that help when you're going against a team like the Suns, where you feel like you have Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant with a lot of offensive firepower, feeling like, oh, we need that offense to keep up with theirs. But realistically, it was the defense of the Minnesota Timberwolves that really gave them the edge in this series. And obviously the Suns, they have depth issues. They have roster construction issues. I mean, after they lost that game, we got a whole article about they want Frank Vogel out of there. So, I mean, obviously, if you're not bought into your coach, that spells doom for a lot of teams. So the Suns weren't locked in at all. And, in that series, again, Minnesota just proved that they deserve to be where they are. And that they are ready to try to take that next step. Now, obviously, Chris Finch, towards the end of that game, got injured, had to get surgery on his knee. So they don't know if he'll be able to coach Saturday when they play Denver, or be on the sideline at least. But, overall, I mean, Timberwolves, man. I mean, it's great to see them doing really well. And the Western Conference is so interesting this year. 3 teams vying for a number 1 seed. All 3. Oklahoma City wrapped up their series last night as well. Denver wrapped up their series. Timberwolves wrapped it up 2 nights ago. They've all came in and pretty much handled business. 2 sweeps in a 5-game series. So they've pretty much proven like that. There's a reason why there was a log jam at the top of the Western Conference. But getting to the Suns, first, I mean, everybody knew when you watched this team, they needed a point guard. They needed a point guard, and the fact that they felt like they did not need one was head scratching. There was a report that I saw that they said that Frank Vogel wanted to try to get a point guard during the season, and the front office of the Suns, was basically like, no, because they don't want to take the ball out of the hands of Bradley Beal, of Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker, which to me was like, what do you mean? Like, the point guard is to help set them up, to help get them easy shots, to help them be better players. It's to say that you're just focused on, I want the ball in one of their hands at all times. It makes you wonder if they know how they're running it. Now, I know when the new owner came in, that he wanted to spend money to win. And, you could spend money, but this is a prime example of the Suns. And this is important for Hawks fans to hear too. You can't just spend money and think it's going to fix your problems. The NBA has changed from where LeBron was with the big 3 to now. It's hard to build teams like that now and win because teams are just so, I feel like the top teams are so balanced now. It's almost like, I don't know how to explain it. It's one of those things where it's like, you can't just rely on talent to get you through. In this playoffs, you've seen how connectivity, how continuity, just developing habits, culture, have meant something. Having the right players to play a certain way has been important. You can't just say, let's slap talent together and then we should be better than everybody else. Yeah, you might be able to do that in the regular season, but in the playoffs, you'll kind of notice like those flaws will be greatly, greatly exposed. And, if you don't have answers for it, then that could doom your team. that could easily do your team. And I think that's what happened with the Suns. I think, they just spent money and hoped to God that it would work, and it didn't. And they're right now they're in the tier 2. They're in that second apron of luxury tax, which is the deadly tax. You can't get buyout guys. You don't have a mid-level exception for free agency. Like, they literally made it where if you do it, it limits how you can improve your team. And the Suns are in that part. And they're kind of in a situation where if they were going to improve the team, they pretty much have to trade one of the big three to do it. Now, obviously, they're going to try to figure out, is there another way we can try to keep the big three and still do different things to the team? And there's some small moves they can make, but nothing major. They have no draft picks until 2031, I Bleav. So you can't draft a guy and say, we need you to come in and play some minutes for us. So they're pretty much from that perspective screwed. So it's a matter of just what can they do to improve this team? What can they do to upgrade the team? Now, because right now, if you're losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves in a sweep with that expensive of a roster, you're not feeling good about what this team could be long term. That's not good. That just shows you right now you are behind the 8 ball, and you got to figure out a way to get through it. Which leads me into the conversations that have been happening. I'll start with the Suns first and going back to the Lakers. The Suns obviously need a point guard. Obviously, in Atlanta, there's 2 that people Bleav will be both available this offseason. Some people on Hawks Twitter entertained, do you try to trade for KD? Do you try to trade for Devin Booker? Bradley Beal probably is the least likely to be traded because of his contract. He doesn't have a lot of value. I feel like at this point. So he's someone that I don't see being moved. It'd probably be either KD or Devin Booker. If the Suns decide to go down that route. And obviously they'd probably want to, I would assume you'd want a point guard. Obviously, with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young available, those are 2 spots you can go in. Some people said a framework of a KD deal could potentially be DeJounte and DeAndre Hunter. For Kate, and that's just like the start of the framework, and then we can get into all the other stuff later. But that would be probably what you would do to start that conversation. I don't know what it would take to get Devin Booker. I would feel like the Suns would probably rather keep Devin Booker more than anybody, just because he's the guy who was drafted there. He's young, still very valuable, really good player. So you're not really trying to move him that much. You're not really trying to go out of your way to move him like that. But those are possibilities. And I think that again, if the Hawks could get Devin Booker, that would be great. KD would be great. Obviously, KD's older, so it'd be more of like, okay, how long would he play? How long would KD be KD? His game seems ageless. It seems like he'll be able to always be a 20-plus point a game guy. But just in terms of what you need from him, how long is he going to be able to do it? But I also understand, he is KD. He's a star player. And you would feel like you're in a much better position as a team if you can make that move. Where, Devin Booker obviously would maybe be more ideal from an age perspective. And just, you could build Trae, Devin Booker, see how that goes. Obviously, he's a more natural 2 guard than DeJounte. So you just from a natural position setting, that would be more improved and better. So that's obviously a possibility as well. It just kind of depends on what you would rather want, I guess, if you were wanting to talk to the Suns about what you want. And then, obviously, if you want to essentially try to throw another player in there from the Suns so they could help shed some salary outside of that, would also be something. When it comes to the Lakers, we've heard the rumors. I saw something today. Austin Rivers did some picks. Again, for Trae Young. If I'm the Hawks, I'm not even entertaining it. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not considering it. Because to give me a player who's not better than Trae Young, and they give me a couple of picks, especially a lot of picks that are a couple of years out, to me, I'm kind of not a fan of it. I feel like I think the big thing here with the Hawks is you've seen that picks have constantly been the sticking point for a lot of these trade offers because there's been that thing out there that the Hawks want to regain draft picks from what they lost in the DeJounte Murray trade. So people feel like, oh, well, if a team's able to give them some picks back, they're maybe more willing to move off of Trey. Because DeJounte, I've always said out of the two, should be more attainable. And that's why I think everybody's connecting the Lakers to Trey, but like DeJounte still, like literally, people could call the Hawks and say, what do you want from Trey? Okay, and what do you want for DeJounte? And there's not going to be the exact same offer. So in terms of attainability, DeJounte will probably be more attainable. It just depends. But I understand if Trey is a player that you could maybe obtain, trying to see is the Hawks' demands too big to actually try to see if you can offer or make a deal for, So it depends. It's just one of those things that it depends on what the Hawks want for each player. I said that the most perfect trade partner to me the Hawks could have is Orlando because what they both need, the other team has, they need a star guard. You can give up DeJounte. We need some really good two-way guys. Orlando has those. But obviously, I don't know how they feel about trading within the division. Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaacs. Boom. Now you got two-way guys. You got Suggs you can put next to Trey. You got Jonathan Isaacs who can, if you want to move off 100, you can. If not, he'd be a great, addition to the team defensively, whether you play him at 4-3, wherever you even play. But that's just me. But if the Lakers are wanting to make a deal with DeJounte, it seemed like it would have needed to be a multi-team deal. It feels like with Trey, it has to be a multi-team deal. To think that they're just going to come up with something just with amongst their assets and roster itself, to me, it's kind of unlikely. It seems very unlikely to me. It just doesn't seem like a move that would make sense to me, And so the Lakers would have the most work to do in terms of giving us someone. The Suns, if they were willing to give us KD or Devin Booker, obviously the Hawks are trying to create an offer to get one of them. Magic, I've already talked about that fit. Lakers are the only team that pretty much, unless they're giving us AD, you're needing to tell me what you want to give us so we can get him. So you can get Trey or DeJounte off your hands. Like I said, they're both agencies. Both have agents from Clutch. So obviously that may impact some things. And like I said, at the end of the day, it really just depends on what Atlanta would want. We still have not gotten a framework from what they've want. Shams has came out, even though he's even attached to Lakers and even the Spurs to Trey Young and DeJounte Murray, he said we don't have a firm absolute that they're wanting or trying or open to trading him. That we have not guaranteed that yet. So, and because they said they're still making a decision about the backcourt. So we'll probably know that as the offseason goes on for this team. But I feel like everybody's trying to assume that Trey Young will be available. And I've said, I feel like if I'm Atlanta, listen, he's a star player. If you're going to give him up, you got to make sure you get you a king's ransom back in return. It's not going to be, oh, we'll just take a player and a couple of picks. Because if that's what you give for DeJounte and Trey's looked at as a more valuable player, you would want at least maybe even double that, 2 players and maybe double the picks to make it feel like, the tier of player you're getting will represent the compensation we want back in return. So, those are some things that obviously the Hawks can look into for potential trade opportunities and the trade rumors. You're about to see narratives. Like I said, I've seen 3-4 Laker articles already with Trey Young. So they're about to push that narrative this offseason. So we already have to prepare for that, right? So we just got to see how it goes, right? But overall, I'll touch on these 2 games tonight, and then I'll let you guys go. I Like I said, Knicks play the Sixers tonight, have a chance to close them out. I think the Knicks will close them out tonight back in New York. Knicks will advance to the next round, which then they will end up playing the winner of Pacers Bucks, which also the Pacers could close out the Bucks tonight. I expect them to close out the Bucks tonight with Damian Lillard and Giannis out. I expect the Knicks to close out the series tonight in Philadelphia. And then Orlando, Cleveland's probably the most, it's funny to say the most interesting series. It's the most interesting series left. Even though some people have said it's the most not anticipated exciting series. I mean, it's 2-2 series. Both teams on their home floors dominated the other. But now you're back in Cleveland tonight. Orlando's dominated Cleveland the last 2 games. What will it look like tonight? Obviously, whoever game 5 is a pivotal. You win this game 5, you're in the driver's seat. You have 2 closeout games at best. Cleveland has home court, so they win this. At least guarantees them if they have to go back to a game 7, we'll be back in Cleveland. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, seeing the evolution of Paolo, seeing him. Jalen Suggs had some big games. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. There's a lot of questions about Donovan Mitchell's future in Cleveland, where, Orlando feels like they're on the come up. This is just good experience for them, and then they'll take the next step in figuring out what they need to do to improve that roster. Cleveland feels like if they don't do something significant, Donovan's out. Do you entertain trading Garland? What does this mean for Cleveland? So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I think I'm going to go ahead and say Cleveland bounces back tonight just because it seems like this is a series when you have the type of teams that you have are going to play better at home. And that may be the difference in this series potentially is the home games and the home court advantage. So we're going to have to see. But I do have the Bucks being eliminated tonight, just have too many injuries. And I think Pacers have enough to beat them, even though they're going to be back in Milwaukee. And then obviously I think Philly Knicks have been close. So I wouldn't be surprised if it gets back to Philly, but I think the Knicks are going to come out tonight and finish it up and wrap it up and go ahead and end the season. And then I'm sure there will be all questions about Joel Embiid's future and what his future could potentially be also as well. But we'll have to see. Like I said, guys, hopefully get somebody on, talk more about Hawks rumors next 24, 48 hours. Hopefully that's my plan. But I appreciate you guys tuning in to Bleav a Hawks podcast. Don't forget to subscribe if you listen to it on YouTube or like the video. If you listen to audio, leave a review, leave a rating. Appreciate you guys. All the love you guys give me and everything under the sun. So, we'll see how everything goes as the playoffs go on. I'll keep you guys up with that, my thoughts on the postseason, any news, rumors that comes out. And like I said, next big thing will be draft lottery for the Hawks. So we'll obviously give my reaction to whatever that ends up being. So I appreciate you guys. It's your boy Bryce Lewis, signing out.